Welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, financial literacy and the Youth Ambassador Program, but first, let's take a look at interest rates and the economy.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Well, I think all of us should be concerned about financial literacy. What do we know about what to do about, money, whether it's in savings or in, you have a bank or a credit union. What do you do with the money? What do you know about investments? What do you know about interest rates? It's all very complicated. We're going to get into a particular program, the Youth Ambassador Program. I'll get that out. But first, let me introduce our guest, Kristine Yori. She's with the Erie Federal Credit Union, and she's the 2018 Credit Union Youth Ambassador. You got a big title there, don't you?
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it really is. I have to read that. And as often is the case, we have Patrick Conway. He's the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Patrick, let me start with you. We're hearing this news, interest rates are beginning to rise. Some think it's evidence that the economy is doing well. So what's your sense about, are interest rates rising? I think they are. You're the expert.
Yes, they are, Terry. I think generally the economy is performing very well. Interest rates are rising incrementally. The Fed, I think, has taken an incremental approach, and as the economy continues to move along, very well, we expect interest rates to continue to increase this year.
But are you looking at, interest rates that we need to get nervous about? Or for the foreseeable future, the rise will be incremental, as you said? Is there anything out there that has you nervous about that?
Not really.
Oh,
not
good.
really. We expect an incremental approach to increasing rates. We think that inflation has increased modestly.
Yeah.
The economy is moving along very well. So don't expect any surprises, and things look pretty good.
Well,
very pleased.
Let me ask your partner here. Kristine, what we end up with, you're on the front line. People come in, they take loans out, they buy automobiles, they buy homes, they do all kinds of, they come to you for loans and for credit. Have you seen an uptick in the number of people who are coming in who want to borrow money?
I have, and a lot of them, I think, are nervous about interest rates. They're asking questions. What are your rates like? I don't want to do anything. I just want to know what your rates are like. So a lot of them are shopping around looking for the lower rate. And granted, some people, it would be beneficial to pay a higher rate if it's a better program for them, but a lot of people are asking questions about it, wanting to find out before they borrow, which is a good practice.
But are more people borrowing? More
people are borrowing, a lot, especially in the summertime. I think warm weather makes them want to borrow, makes them want to buy houses, buy cars. Yeah,
the other thing, is that evidence that the economy is getting better? Now, you live in Erie, Pennsylvania. We always view that as one of the old manufacturing towns that had gone through some tough times.
Right.
But you think there's a modest revival going on in employment and people coming in and borrowing money?
I believe there is. I believe there is, especially in local Erie. I see a lot of young students in college still, or fresh out of college, that are getting jobs right out of college, still in college. I got a job when I was 18, right out of high school, and I've been there ever since.
Right. Well, that's a good sign. We're talking, of course, Patrick sees it at the global level. You're in the trenches where people come and do the borrowing. I think that's a good sign for the economy. As long as inflation doesn't get, we don't end up with 8, 10, 12, 15%, inflation. We had a number of those periods in our history.
We don't expect that anytime soon.
I feel better right now. All right, let's talk about the credit union you've set up. 4 decades ago anyway, what's called the Youth Ambassador Contest and the Youth Ambassador Program. Briefly, just tell our viewers, why did you do that?
Sure. Well, the association, 42 years ago to be exact, and it's great to have Kristine Yori here, the 2018 Youth Ambassador Contest winner. And it's really a way to recognize young leadership within the credit union movement.
Okay.
We encourage other trade associations and other industry groups to do the same thing. It's really about leadership development, identifying the future leadership of the credit union industry, and helping to nurture, that growth through a fun competition that, challenges the young professionals in our industry.
Yeah. We're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to ask Kristine about financial literacy. I mean, this is an extremely important subject. I mean, I don't know how young, you're going to tell me, how young you can start this program. I mean, with our grandkids, we try to give them a sense that money has a value and, you know, you just can't throw it around, and you're going to help us out. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business, and by the Pennsylvania State Education Association and Partners for Public Education, bringing the power of a great education to our schools, our students, and our communities. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Welcome back. Well, we're talking about financial literacy and its importance. Before the break, I raised a question, how early can you start this? I mean, you're directly involved in delivering financial literacy. I'll call them programs, correct me if I'm wrong. How early can you start this with the kids?
So we at Erie Federal, we start as early as preschool age. We go into the schools, we take books, Dr. Seuss books, about how money was made, about the importance of money, you know, the morals of money. We start at the preschool age and we go all the way up until adulthood and on. But preschool is really where we start. We try to instill that importance in them for the money.
That is really amazing. But in addition to that, you also have programs that you take out into the community for adults. I mean, a lot of I'll look at you and a lot of people come into credit unions and other financial institutions, and I don't mean this meanly, but they don't have any sense about it, right?
Right. No, and it's unfortunate. So, you know, credit unions are very passionate about financial education. And so, you know, we're in, I think, 250 out of 500 school districts. Credit unions have student branches. They have professionals going into the schools to help educate kids. We do financial reality fairs, which are a fun way for students to learn about managing money. And so, you know, we try to do that at an early age.
So these programs, I noticed from some of the information that you circulate, we're not just talking about doing, making a deposit, checking, looking at your home checking and savings accounts, but you're into things like explaining identity theft, rebuilding credit, budgeting, home buying, I mean, it covers the whole gamut of virtually everything we do in life.
Yes. Yes. I think it's very important to go from budgeting, because you can have a budget down, you can use your budget, be very educated in it, but then when it comes time for you to buy a house, it's a whole other realm of things. How do we buy a house? How do we start this? And then once you have your house, as you move on and get older, well, now I have to write my will, I have to deal with my estate. How do I do this?
Yeah, I mean, it is complex, and when you think about it, and I don't know how much they do of that in schools anymore. I mean, the curriculum in schools is very crowded. There's so much to get in, and you specialize in it. And by going in and bringing the talents that you all have with understanding how all this works, again, you know, whether we're talking about identity theft or you lost your credit, how to get it back, I mean, that's truly important.
It's very important, and that's what I love most about my job, is helping people recover from, poor credit, or some people will say, I went through a really rough divorce, I lost everything, how do I start again? So we start from the bottom and work our way up, and we kind of build and just help people reach their goals.
Yeah. So at any rate, you're the youth ambassador, and you have goals.
Yes.
What are those goals? Do you have anything to do with you set the general parameter for the goals for the youth ambassador?
Well, it sort of encompasses in the entire program, but really the participants are the ones that talk about, they have to give a speech, they do interviews with a panel of judges, they give they take an exam. So it's really, the focus is largely with the participants and then the youth ambassador. But there are some goals, and I know that Kristine is traveling to a national conference next week representing Pennsylvania's credit unions. And
all right, before I let you go, what are your goals?
I want to pretty much just ensure that everyone, no matter what your income level is or your understanding. I want everyone to be on the same page and understand the importance of money, and I want to make sure that everybody is aware that credit unions can help everyone. It doesn't matter if you don't have to be part
Are
of
there
the
any
union.
differences between millennials and, was it Gen Y? I'll get that straight. And you get, I mean, is your focus on basically younger people because they're starting out in their careers?
See, I would have said yes about a year ago, but being in the branches, well, I'm an assistant manager, so I deal with people of all ages, and a lot of people that come in with problems are older than me. So I have to kind of just take myself out of it, and I've found that a lot of people that I really love to help are middle-aged professionals because they thought that they knew what they were doing, and a lot of them had gone through rough times. So now I get to kind of restart with them with a fresh face and a fresh start.
Well, well, I want to thank you for coming in. This is a great update, and we have a special guest coming up. Hang in with us. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Association of Pennsylvania State College and University Faculties, representing the faculty and coaches who are devoted to providing quality public higher education for Pennsylvania's college students.
Welcome back to the program. Well, we're going to skip politics, and every now and then it's good to have a program where we don't talk about politics, and this is the program, and we're going to do it. First off, look, what about training people for the modern workforce? We hear an awful lot about jobs, and people, do they have the skills, to obtain the new jobs, particularly in the modern workforce? Well, sitting across from me is Dave Curry. He's the director of the Career and Technical Education Programs at the Milton Hershey School. David, I'll call you Dave or David.
Dave's good.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Look, all that we hear now, not all, but we hear a lot from employers that they're jobs, but they have trouble finding people with the skills for a modern workforce. Before we get into what you do at Milton Hershey, explain that. What's your sense about that?
Well, sure. There's obviously a change in the landscape across multiple industries over the last 20 or 30 years, and now as we're preparing for the next generation of jobs, we're seeing that there's a significant deficit in jobs across multiple areas. So obviously employers right now in many cases are scrambling to find skilled or even interested workers in their industry.
Yeah, now let's talk about this in another way. I mean, even four-year colleges and universities are now segueing into some of areas, vocational areas that they wouldn't have done earlier, technical training that they wouldn't have done earlier. But you at Milton Hershey, you start with what you call a pre-apprenticeship program. Explain that.
So we have about 80 to 85% of our students that are going to touch a 2 or 4 year school at some point after they graduate. But certainly that leaves a number of our students that leave us and go directly into the world of work. So as a school, we wanted to make sure that we were preparing all of our students so that they could go and find sustainable careers after they left us. And so what the pre-apprenticeship does is it takes our training that we provide for them through our CTE program at the school, and it's giving them the skills that they'll need for those industries. And we're actually starting to plug students into careers while they're still in high school, so that by the time they leave us, they already have viable career options.
Now, is pre-apprenticeship mostly for high school students, and then they'll go on and get further training afterwards? Is that the point?
Correct. So pre-apprenticeships nationally look different from one institution to another. Certainly here in Pennsylvania and at the Milton Hershey School, pre-apprenticeship means that these are the on-the-job training experiences and the related technical instruction that students get while they're still in high school, so that they're prepared for their adult apprenticeship after they graduate.
What works? What makes for success? I'm sure you get asked that all the time, don't you? Particularly by employers or future employers for the young kids, right?
Absolutely. So we're obviously at the Milton Hershey School in our 109th year of basically
Is that all?
preparing. That's it. We're pretty young. We have many more in front of us. Obviously, we have always valued preparing our students for careers, and that was the mission of Milton and Catherine Hershey. Why they created the school was to give kids skills so that they could break the cycle of poverty and take care of themselves and their family. And so here in 2018, we're doing the same exact thing. Our leadership right now with President Pete Gert, with a very informed and supportive board of managers, all the way down through the administration, the teachers, the house parents, are well aware of this mission, and everybody's on the same page. And so what we do is provide kids the technical training while they're still in school. All of the students in high school have to take career and technical education coursework, and then we ramp that up to prepare them for actual authentic work experiences.
That leads me to another question. And trades, that's often what you hear when you get into programs such as yours, but it's more complicated than that with the modern economy.
Yeah, I think for a long time, and you kind of touched on it with, our country went through a phase where we were preparing everybody for college. If you didn't go to college, then you weren't going to be successful. And now we realize, and by we I mean America, realizes that that's not necessarily the case. There's a lot of ways to become successful, especially in 2018. So as we prepare our kids, we're not preparing them just for college. We're preparing them for careers. No matter what a kid's going to do after they leave us, the end result is going to be a career. We don't want kids to be prepared for college and that's it. College isn't the end result.
Now, given your emphasis, which I think is critically important, are programs such as yours expanding throughout the United States? Is that your experience, that there's more realization that these apprenticeship programs are critically important to the future of our economy?
Sure. I think that over the last 20 years, the traditional vocational model has changed to what now we call career and technical education. So across the country, people are recognizing that it's not just the trade areas that we want to prepare our kids. It's not just college or world of work. It's preparing our kids for careers. And so we have students that want to become doctors and lawyers and police officers and computer analysts and programmers. And no matter what they want to do, we want to make sure that they're prepared for those careers, even if the next step is a college or if it's military or directly into the world of work. All
right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the relationship that programs such as yours have with colleges and universities, because, some young folks will want to go to college and continue the kind of education that you've given them, but at the 4-year level. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Medical Society. Inspired physicians committed to the good health of Pennsylvanians and the advancement of the practice of medicine. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.
Well, I'm talking with Dave Curry. He's the director of the Career and Technical Education programs at Milton Hershey School. We're involved in an important discussion about the future of the workforce, not just in our state, but in our nation. And we don't do enough about talking about what we're going to do to sustain a viable workforce in the modern economy. We're trying to do a segment or two on that to help us all understand it better. You can't do this alone. You need help from at least 2 different sources, right? Let's talk about help from colleges and universities. How does that work?
Sure. So obviously, as we're working to prepare our kids for the next step, for many of our kids, that is college. So we want to make sure that along with all of our students getting CTE programming, they're also getting a rigorous academic course load. And so across our CTE pathways, we offer 13 different college courses.
Wow.
So our students who want to pursue college after they graduate in some form are getting the opportunity.
I'm going to stop you right here.
Sure.
Listen, what's important about this is we often think of either or.
Correct.
And that's critical. It's not either or.
Correct.
You can get in the kinds of programs, the apprenticeship programs that you offer, but you can also prepare for college. Why is it either? I'm sorry, I had to get into that.
No,
Go
you're
ahead.
absolutely right, and that's kind of one of the misconceptions nationally is that it's two different forms of training, two different forms of education. When really what's going to create success is the balance. You know, having a student that is able to have those technical training skills, the professionalism, what we call employability skills, and also having the academics to go along with it.
Well, one of the things that I think that I've found both in my career at Millersville University and Franklin and Marshall College is that students who graduate now, you're not going to get into one job and stay there for 40 years.
Right.
You could have 5, 6, 7 jobs throughout your lifetime, and that means flexibility.
Correct.
And is that what you find, given your history with the students who've gone on?
Yeah, and that's certainly something that, and I'll give an example. One of our 11 pathways that we offer, we've redesigned. It's called Computer Science and Innovation. And instead of teaching one specific skill that will prepare them for one specific career, we're teaching them a variety of technologies, and we're teaching them how to create the technology so that in 4 or 6 years when the technology is different, they know how to work with anything.
Yeah, good point.
And so that's important. The skills are more important even than the specifics.
All right, but you also have to get out of the classroom and even out of the apprenticeships and get into what I think you call the authentic workforce. Do I got that terminology?
Yeah, authentic work experience.
And that means working with the business community. Go ahead.
Correct. So obviously, along with a very supportive administration, it is critical that you have good community relationships. And so for us, businesses like Hershey Entertainment and Resorts, the Hershey Company, Hershey Trust,
you don't have to go very far,
we don't have
do
to
you?
go very far at all.
To find the quality work. Yeah, go ahead.
We have certainly a lot of job opportunities with the hospital, with the Dauphin County District Attorney's Office. We have a number of options where our kids can go and do summer internships. They can do senior year co-ops and gain some of that on-the-job training. And when we talk about the pre-apprenticeships, those hours are going to count towards the apprenticeship. So,
and you also get certifications that employers are going to say, uh-oh, I want to know that you can really do what you say you're going to do.
Correct. We currently offer over 90 certifications across our 11 pathways. They're all certifications that are advised upon and approved by our advisory committees of industry professionals. So we're making sure that our kids are leaving us with a resume and experiences that prepare them for whatever the next step is.
How many people do you need to do this?
It takes a village.
I like that. Yeah.
Certainly there are a lot of people that have a role in this, and certainly when it comes to the teachers, the administration, the board, and the community industry members, they're all critical components of this. So if somebody is looking to start a pre-apprenticeship in another school across the state, those are some of the vital components. They need the support, they need the resources. Certainly are great, but really it's the drive to prepare your kids appropriately.
And so you could, we're almost out of time, but short answer, you couldn't do this without the full support of virtually everybody that's involved with the school, correct?
Correct. It's definitely one mission, and everybody's very much focused on it.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, stay well.